Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. This is Nephilim VA bringing you the 5th chapter of After the Fall, written by Alex_is_writing_again on AO3. Last time, there was a fight over strawberries. What will happen this time? A fight over mangoes? Let's find out after the trigger warnings. This fanfiction is for mature audiences with a trigger warning for attempted suicide and drug use. If that isn't your style, then I recommend Humans Make Surprisingly Good Pillows by Dogblue9 on AO3. It can be found on my channel! Now let's delve deeper once again into a world where UA is a university, and you enter at age 18, but there are still 3 years of school, where canon divergence is the name of the game. Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 5. Relax. Izuku was exhausted. He had spent months training to get ready for All Might. Katsuki had been joining him for a lot of his workouts, but Izuku hadn't let him go to the beach with him. He had a job to do, and sure, All Might was an asshole, but Izuku figured that regardless of how much he didn't like All Might anymore, he still probably knew what he was talking about when it came to his quirk. He couldn't do any less work than All Might told him to, but he could do more. So he did. He didn't spend every second working out, but he was always on the lookout for a chance to work a new muscle group. About 2 months into his training, Katsuki had taken notice of it, and asked Izuku why he was overworking himself. It takes you like an hour to fall asleep every night, so I know you're not getting enough sleep to keep yourself from collapsing from exhaustion, Katsuki had said in Izuku's room. Izuku had been on his phone, casually flexing and relaxing his entire body. Katsuki's eyes had immediately been drawn to Izuku's biceps, when he noticed Izuku's body going rigid over and over again. Oh, I don't... Izuku stammered, debating if he should tell Katsuki how he had been recently putting himself to sleep. I figured out a way to fall asleep quicker, he stated quickly. Katsuki raised an eyebrow. What do you do then? He leaned back on his elbows, making his shirt ride up just enough that Izuku could see a sliver of his abdomen. The back of his head was hovering over Izuku's pillow. Izuku shifted uncomfortably and got up from the chair he had been sitting in. He walked over to his bed, stopping right next to Katsuki. Izuku's hand moved from its spot at his side, crossing Katsuki's body before landing just next to his neck. Katsuki's eyes were steady on Izuku's as he waited. Izuku pulled his hand back, bringing a pillow with it. He reached into his pillowcase and wiggled his hand around a bit before pulling out a dab pen. What the actual fuck, Deku? Katsuki asked in surprise, before bursting into laughter a moment later. What's so funny? Izuku asked with a small frown. It's just... you... smoking. Katsuki breathed out between teary laughter. You're not as perfect as you seem, Katsuki stated, wiping away a tear as he stared at Izuku in amusement. Izuku felt a small blush settle onto his cheeks, but attempted to cover it with a smirk. Perfect, huh? He asked before grabbing his pillow from the floor beside him and using it to attack Katsuki. Stop that! Katsuki yelled before grabbing the other pillow from Izuku's bed and hitting Izuku with it. And shut up, you nerd! I didn't even mean to say perfect anyway! He huffed, discarding the pillow since Izuku had stopped hitting him. He grabbed his phone and laid across Izuku's bed horizontally. You just follow all the rules, nerd! He muttered as Izuku crawled onto the bed lying next to him. Ka-chan, you literally go to bed at 8:30 and get straight A's. You have absolutely no room to talk, Izuku teased. Tch, damn nerd, was all Bakugo said for a moment. What's it like? He asked suddenly. Oh, Izuku exclaimed in surprise before sitting up and facing Katsuki. Well, it's, kinda different for everyone, you know, and it depends on what exactly you get. He was in the beginnings of a ramble session, and Katsuki knew it, but for once he didn't seem to care. For some people, it can make them anxious, for others, it relaxes them. Sometimes you can feel like you're floating, but also like your feet are stuck in concrete and pulling you down. And sometimes it makes me so aware of everything I feel. Izuku went on, telling Katsuki about the ways that weed had helped him, and how it can affect people differently for a few minutes before stopping with a sheepish grin on his face. Sorry, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. I didn't mean to start rambling. Deku, if I wanted you to shut up, you would have known, Katsuki stated matter-of-factly, before deciding to ask another question. So, do you ever use it for anything other than sleep? Izuku grinned. Sometimes, mostly only on days I'm in a ton of pain, or had an emotionally exhausting day and just want to relax. It was quiet for a moment, the two of them looking around the room. Katsuki sat up so that he was facing Izuku, mirroring the way he was sitting on the bed. He shifted uncomfortably, before finally opening his mouth to speak again. Is it fun? He asked suddenly, surprising Izuku. What happened to the guy who used to yell at his goons for smoking anywhere near him? Izuku teased, shoving Katsuki's shoulder. Katsuki let out one of the smallest explosions he could make near Izuku's face. Yeah, it is, Izuku answered truthfully, after shoving away Katsuki's exploding hands. I hate it when they smoke, because they smoke cigarettes. That shit smells disgusting, and it's bad for you. I just used the fact that it would look bad to UA so they wouldn't question me, Katsuki grumbled. Izuku sat there staring at Katsuki, waiting for him to ask the question that Izuku could tell he was itching to ask from the uncomfortable way he was shifting around on the bed. Your mum's gone all weekend, Katsuki stated blandly, looking at the wall and then the ceiling, anywhere but Izuku. Indeed she is. Izuku felt his tiny grin slowly morphing into a teasing smile. I think it would be really funny to see you high. That wasn't what he wanted to say, and Izuku knew it. So let's get high, Izuku stated, taking his dab pen out of the pocket he had placed it in. Obviously, you don't have to, and I'll get high first so you can laugh at me without already being high. Izuku looked at Katsuki again, searching his eyes. That is what you wanted to ask, right? Get out of my head, damn nerd, Katsuki complained with a smile, before shoving Izuku's face away. Izuku loved the caramel smell that his hands had because of his quirk. Izuku held the dab pen up to his lips and pressed the button while inhaling for about 3 seconds. He stopped and held it for a bit before coughing it out and repeated the process for a second time. Isn't it supposed to be embarrassing to cough? Katsuki inquired as he saw that Izuku was smiling widely. Some people think that, but I don't really care. I normally end up feeling higher when I cough. I don't know why it works, but I'm not going to stop letting myself cough just because other people think it's embarrassing. Izuku shrugged and put the dab pen back in his pocket. You just coughed so much you sounded like you were going to throw up, Deku. Yeah, I might have gone a bit overboard with how long I held it. Izuku let out a small chuckle and laid back down on the bed. The two sat in silence together for a short minute before Katsuki got impatient. So, when does that shit start working? He asked, wanting to make fun of Izuku for any dumb shit he did whilst he was high. I don't know, it depends. I'd say it'll be another few minutes, Izuku replied. Fine, Katsuki huffed out as he flopped back down onto Izuku's bed. He took out his phone and scrolled mindlessly for about 5 minutes before hearing a small giggle erupt from next to him. "What are you laughing about, nerd?" Katsuki asked. "You're just really pretty," Izuku sighed, resting his head on a closed fist. His body was engulfed in a sweater that was entirely too large for him, having once belonged to the blonde in front of him. "Huh?" Katsuki asked, snapping his head from the direction of his phone to Izuku. His face was red with embarrassment, but Izuku didn't look so different. His face was covered in a light blush and his eyes were red and glossy. A joyful grin covered Izuku's face as he stared at Katsuki. There was a pause as Katsuki's eyes lingered for a minute on Izuku. "The drugs finally kicked in?" he questioned before locking his phone and resting it on Izuku's nightstand. A slow giggled out, "Yeah," was all Katsuki got in response until a few moments later when Izuku added, "But I think you're pretty all the time." His eyes were nearly shut, with a wide grin plastered on his face as he moved to be directly in front of Katsuki, each laying on their side as they faced the other. Katsuki's face was red with embarrassment, but Izuku didn't take any notice of it, or at least he didn't mention it. The two boys lay next to each other, Izuku in comfortable silence and Katsuki in anticipation of whatever Izuku would say or do next. Izuku reached out a hand to touch Katsuki's chin. There was a tiny scar next to where Izuku's thumb landed. It was so small you would never notice it if you didn't know it was there, but Izuku knew everything about Katsuki, so of course, he knew about the scar. He remembered the day Katsuki got it. It was from when the two were still best friends before Katsuki got his quirk. 3-year-old Katsuki and Izuku had been playing tag, and Katsuki was it. He chased after Izuku and tripped on the lip at the beginning of a sidewalk. His chin landed on the concrete before he could get his hands under himself to soften the blow of his fall. Little Katsuki tried not to cry, but little Izuku was at his side immediately and asking if he was okay. And little Katsuki wasn't okay. Little Katsuki was in pain, and could feel the blood on his hand as he clutched his chin. He started crying, and little Izuku yelled for their mums as he pulled him in for a hug. "You can barely see the scar anymore," Izuku stated, sliding his thumb along the line of the thin scar. "I'm glad we're friends again. I really miss how close we were when we were little." Izuku looked into Katsuki's eyes, his hand still lingering on Katsuki's jaw as his thumb brushed at the scar on his chin and the 4 other fingers rested on his neck. "I'm really glad we're friends," Izuku mumbled as his gaze drifted down to Katsuki's lips and slowly back up to his eyes. Izuku blinked rapidly and suddenly pulled his hand away. He turned onto his back and stared at the ceiling with a raging blush. Anyway, Izuku clumsily grabbed his dab pen and offered it to Katsuki. "Your turn if you want." Katsuki grabbed the dab pen from him and declared, "I'm no chicken." "I never said you were, Ka-chan." Izuku giggled to himself as he watched Katsuki sit up to hit it. He hastily copied the way Izuku had taken a hit earlier, and then continued inhaling longer than Izuku did. Izuku's eyes widened after a second, when he realized that he should have told Katsuki not to inhale so much. "Ka-chan, wait!" Izuku said as soon as he realized, but Katsuki was already coughing out his hit. Izuku grabbed his water from his nightstand and handed it to Katsuki. "Yeah, you should have not inhaled that much for your first time doing this." Izuku laughed at Katsuki as he tried desperately to stop coughing. "Fucking hell, Deku! I thought I was actually gonna throw up!" Katsuki said as he held his head in his hands. Izuku just looked at him and giggled, earning a glare from the blonde. "I'm sorry, but it was funny," Izuku said with a euphoric smile. "It really wasn't that funny, damn nerd!" Katsuki deadpanned before laying back down. When 5 minutes of intermittent banter passed, before Izuku heard a soft gasp from the spot next to him. "What?" he asked, turning his head to Katsuki. "My hands don't feel Oh my god! Kartsky yelled before going to a near-silent whisper. My hands and my voice don't feel real. Kartsky was quiet, but his voice sounded urgent. Why does it feel like that? I don't know, it just happens sometimes. Are you okay? It's not a bad feeling, right? No, it's just weird. Surprised me, Kartsky said, his tone close to normal as he calmed back down. The rest of the night was filled with Kartsky describing the way he was feeling and freaking out about nothing over and over again. The two started getting high together to relieve stress on a decently regular basis a few times a month. Keep going, kid! You've cleaned most of this beach already! You can't give up now! All Might's voice pulled Izuku out of his thoughts. God, he really hated All Might. How could Izuku like him when he knew that he would have watched Kartsky die if he hadn't tried to save him? It made Izuku wonder how many other times he had just watched someone die. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support you've given me. No fights over fruit today, but plants were definitely the main feature, if you know what I mean. A very fun chapter indeed. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, Alex_is_writing_again on AO3. I would highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribed to the channel and you hit the notification bell to be notified of my next upload. There is no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing my sunflowers. Mwah.